Hello, young lady. You look quite nice today. And I look real good. You may come a little bit closer to me. You may smell my musk if you wish. But first of all, how rude of me. Let me introduce to you myself to you. My name is Pilot, I'm a pilot, that's what I do. And you can ask me lots of questions about that if you want to, oh yeah. Let you buy me a drink for me. Cause I'm a real pilot, like on Top Gun, like on TV. And the thing that you should know about me is that the first night is always for free, oh yeah. Cause I'm a pilot, a jet pilot, yeah. And when I'm in the bar, I wave my hands in the air. And I'll tell you all about me, even if you don't care about me. Cause I'm a pilot in the military. My favorite conversation topic has to be me. You haven't really lived until you pulled 9G like me. Now I was flying in formation the other day and I was number one. When two bogeys came down in on me out of the sun. And I said, I'm too close for missiles, now I'm switching to guns, oh yeah. Then the other crazy bandit, he rode in on me. So I just rode upside down and pushed some negative G. I slammed on the brakes, he flew right by me. Fox 3, oh yeah. Cause I'm a pilot, a jet pilot, yeah. And when I'm in the bar, I wave my hands in the air. And I'll tell you all about me, even if you don't care about me. I'm a pilot in the military. My favorite conversation topic has to be me. You haven't really lived until you pulled a guy like me.
It's
been a long time.
I sure hope everybody could hear that. Oh my God. If you guys are out there, all my buddies that are on right now, if you could hear it, please let me know in the comments that you could at least hear that song playing on YouTube. Tim Costley. Yeah, as I say, you're right. Yeah, good day, mate. From Texas, Fort Worth, Texas. Yeah, good on you, mate.
It's Australian, but sure, it's great to be with a great man from Canada. So same thing, right? No, it's good.
No, Tim, man, I tell you what, this is something that I've been very excited for because call me a fanboy for all these years. I have loved this song. When it first came out, went viral. I think it was right before I deployed to Afghanistan. And I found it on iTunes, so I downloaded it. Now, my kids are young, and we had a playlist, and we had this thing called the dance playlist or whatever. I'd hit that, and your song was one of them, and I'd always go, play you. It was kind of funny, which my wife thought it was funny as a pilot. But tell us, how did you come up with this whole thing?
Geez, I don't know. It was what are we now? 16 years ago, we were about to go peacekeeping in East Timor, and the song came from we were sitting around in the officers' mess in Australia on our sort of our workup pre-deployment workup exercise, and I was just making up silly little songs about anything that was happening. And one of these Australian F-18 guys is like, hey, you should sing a song about how cool jet pilots are. And so that was what happened. And it was like, oh, that wasn't too bad the way it came out first time. So sort of wrote the gist of it down. And then, a few months later, we're in East Timor. You know what it's like. We're on deployment. There's not heaps to do. So, and over Christmas as well. So we ran an Academy Awards night for New Year's Eve because you can't drink, you can't do much. So I thought, to make something on New Year's Eve, we'll have this Academy Awards night, and it's brilliant, right? I did the same thing in the Solomon Islands when we were over there. And everyone just has to make a 5-minute video. And so, it uses up, people start spending all their time through November, December, making these videos all around camp and out on different ops and stuff. They'll start recording stuff, and someone else made the set. Someone made like this full-size replica Oscar statue. And it grew from just being a night for the, 35 of us Kiwis to suddenly it had the entire force were coming along. The force commander was the top judge. And that song, that music video, was what I made as my little entry into this for our Academy Awards night, thinking that, 35 of us will see it. And that it'll then be consigned to history. I didn't know YouTube was a thing back then. And all of a sudden, an Aussie guy, I think, was the first guy to stick it on YouTube, and it just took off.
Were you guys over in Darwin on exercise when this happened?
Oh, Townsville on exercise, and the video was made in Dili in East Timor.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, man, when that, I can imagine, as you and I were talking earlier, I have a lot of pointy nose friends. And over in Okinawa, there's a Harrier pilot named Mongo, and Mongo kind of like a spider trap, spider hole. I walk by his hooch and he opens the door up and he grabs me. He goes, dude, come here, man. We had this really awesome flight yesterday. We're dropping these bombs and let me show you my HUD tapes. And he puts a VHS tape in and I'm like, watch, I couldn't make out what I'd see something, but I didn't understand. I flew a 1962 Herc. We did not have a HUD. So, sitting there, the line in your video about, I'll make you come watch all of my HUD types in slow-mo. That was just classic. Did they ever do that to you?
Well, look, I think the reason it works, and it was obviously never made to be some comedy video. It was just really a documentary, and it's too easy, isn't it? It's too easy, and that's, I mean, you know what it's like. It's great, the banter between all the different platforms, the different roles that guys end up in. It's great, and it's what makes one of the things that makes the Air Force a great place to be, when you get that banter between everyone, particularly as a helicopter pilot, knowing that you're actually right and the best, and secretly everyone really wants to fly helicopters. So that's fine. But we like you Hercules guys, and you need a ride to get to where the operations are happening, and you're good for that. But then I had an instructor at the start. He said he was a Herc pilot. He said there's only 2 things you need to know about the Huey. One is that must have been only one thing. I can't think what the other one was, but he's like, the only thing you need to know about the Huey is that it fits in the back. That's not a bad comeback line.
Yeah, no, they always told me that flying a helo was 1,000 pieces flying in close formation. And then what was the other thing? I think I'd rather have VD in my health record than helo hours in my logbook. That was from a jet guy. So, I had to.
But you know that you earn those helo hours if you want to keep going with your pun. You earn those doing something great, something really great.
I tell you what, I got to fly UE twice and a H-60, Navy H-60 once, and taking off and going forward, transition to forward flight, to me it was like, oh, this is like an airplane. I can get this. This is cool. But coming into hover, that was the hardest thing, and I was all over the place. So not even close can I even say that one flight, no way. But I got to say, as a fixed wing guy, that is the hardest thing I've ever done. And everyone bags on helo guys because they're low and slow, but that was absolutely the most fun I've ever had as well.
Yeah, I would give parts of my body to get one more hour in a Huey. I would travel the world just to be able to fly one again. They've gone from New Zealand now, but and I miss it. They were the best years of my career. They were amazing. Loved it just so much. But when they teach you to hover, right? They and Chicken Hawk, it gets described really well. It's like, to start with, all you've got to do is stay inside the paddock, and then slowly you just get smaller and smaller paddocks until you can hover in one spot. And
Robert Mason, I interviewed him. Incredible guy, one of my idols. I love Chicken Hawk. Love the book Huey that came out, Vietnam era. That had more tongue in cheek than a lot more humor, dark humor than I thought
Yeah, right. I haven't read that one, but Chicken Hawk, when you got to 3 Squadron, which was our helicopter squadron, you were basically given it as immediate pre-reading. So
Really?
yeah.
I have to tell them that. That's cool. I'll send
Yeah.
them a link to the video and get you two hooked up. How about that?
There you go. First, or one of the first few helicopter books I ever read, Chicken Hawk. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, all right. Let's go back. You got your wings in 2001. Top Gun came out in 86. So how old were you? When were you born?
Yeah, I was 6 when Top Gun came out, and I remember watching it as a primary school kid. I must have been 9 or 10 the first time I saw it. I think at a friend's place. And I grew up. I went out. My dad took me out to the air shows at the local base, and I remember my first memory is like when I was 7, probably 7, at this 50th anniversary air show that they had at this base, back to its sort of pre World War II days. And I remember him talking about how his father, my grandpa, was in the Air Force during the war. He was a bomb aimer on a big old Halifax.
Oh, wow.
And I remember just looking up at these pilots, and I'll be honest, even like the Skyhawk pilots back then, and I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm gonna join the Air Force, and I'm going to fly a plane. And I'd matured. By the time I joined, I was almost just shy of 21. I just finished uni, and by then I'd worked out that actually helicopters were the way ahead. But the dream hadn't gone, right, and I just never shook it.
Yeah, I mean, flying is flying, no matter what. It's the best thing you can do with your clothes on. Most fun you can have with your clothes on. I don't care what platform you're on. But how many helicopters? You guys were flying single engine Hueys, so these are pretty old.
These are 1965. We got our first ones, D models. We got started with 5D and then got the rest H, and we upgraded the D to H. But so we were flying the original, effectively your Vietnam H model Huey, and it was like,
underpowered.
Sorry,
underpowered.
I mean, but we'd upgraded the engine, but it was still downrated because of, and then they upgraded the 42-degree gearbox, the 90-degree gearbox, and the transmission. But there was something in the tail rotor drivetrain that sort of limited us down from that 1400 to 1125 horsepower. And that's what made flying in somewhere like East Timor so good, because it was really challenging. Hot, high, heavy. You're up at 10,000 feet. It's mid 20s, high humidity. You're bleeding the whole way in on approach, so you're under that sort of rotor decay, and you're just trying to balance it between, if I bleed much more, I'm just going to sink, but if I don't bring in any more power, we're also gonna hit the ground. So it was a great challenge, cushioning on a ground effect, nothing like what Rob Mason and the guys in Vietnam did. In fact, one of the guys just down the road from me got a DFC flying in Vietnam. On exchange with the Australians. So I'm pretty realistic about what my experience is compared to what those guys did. But yeah, fantastic. Flying the Huey in those, really in the tropics, great challenge. Poor visibility on night vision goggles, not great. Loved it.
Yeah, how many helicopters? I mean, how big is the New Zealand Air Force? Put it that way. Fixed wing. I mean, you guys have C-130s, you have F-18s.
I've been to Fort Rucker, and I've been to McCord and Fort Lewis, and you'd fit our whole Air Force in there with room to spare. Look, we're small, right? We're a small country with a small, remote island nation, small Air Force. So we only, what have we got now? Even smaller now with the new platform types that you have less of them. So, we've got like P8s, but we've only got 4, whereas we had 6 P3s, which, that's not even a squadron over the stateside, but we're small. We're 2,500 people, so it's literally one of your bases would outflank us.
Yeah. Did you guys do all your flight training over here in the US?
No, we did it all back here in New Zealand. We came over to the US to use your Iroquois flight simulator. It's the old, it was pretty cool when you walk on to. Well, we started up in Fort Lewis, and then we were in Singapore for a bit using their simulator, and then back to Fort Rucker. And you're walking into this building that's now got 4 simulators. Used to have 32 back in the heyday of the Huey in Vietnam, and just thinking, geez, this is where they were doing it. But it's a 1950s, 60s simulator with no visuals at all. It's just IMC from takeoff onwards, and But apart from using simulators overseas back then, everything was in New Zealand. So, yeah.
What else? Now you started out in UEs. What else did you transition to?
Yeah, so in New Zealand, everyone starts on fixed wing. Back then, it was a New Zealand built aircraft called the Air Trainer. Now we fly the Texan. So same as USAF and US Navy.
I've got a picture of that. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's what. So that was me. I was commanding officer there in my last role, but that's what it is these days. Not the old little yellow things we used to have. That's it. That's my first solo. My first solo in 2001.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but so I started off flying the Sioux, the Bell 47, MASH. That was our training helicopter, and then we went on to the big one, which was the Huey, and then a bit of time instructing back on the Air Trainer, and then we upgraded to the NH90. So, just a massive step change in terms of technology. That's it there, yeah. So
what is that? Who makes it?
NH90, it's a NATO helicopter. France, Germany, Italy sort of joined together to design and build it. So it's a lot of it's Airbus. Certainly all the automation's effectively Airbus. So it's a big 139 in a way. It's just bigger and mil spec, but really, really capable helicopter. It's sort of 2.5 times a Huey. It can lift, it can carry. Everything it does is about 2.5 what a Huey does. But we went from having 14 Hueys to having 8 of these. So gone are the days of a 10-ship formation. In fact, my biggest formation in New Zealand was 19. Whereas if we had a really good day here, we might get 8 out.
I got that. It looks like it looks like you ought to be playing dun 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 dun.
It was. No, literally, it was playing over the intercom. But to put it in perspective, this is 2008. That's the last time we had so that's 14 Hueys and 5 Sioux, and that was the entire Air Force helicopter force in New Zealand at the time.
Oh, wow.
So that's everything. That's literally everything airborne, and so it's small. But I challenge you to get every American helicopter in the inventory airborne at the same time. Then I'd pay good money to see that. I tell you.
Yeah, you couldn't do that. And where was that base located? In New Zealand?
Well, Oahakia. So it's in the North Island, New Zealand. Yeah. So it used to be our strike force base. Jets were there when I joined the Air Force. It was a jet base, and now it is a helicopter base. But we've got our P8s are based out of there as well.
Yeah. How about this guy?
Yeah, great moustache, isn't it? That's East Timor. And that's just your average sort of LZ that you'd land in amongst the village. You can see one of the thatch huts behind us and another helicopter jammed in there. And this was we did a number of patrols with sort of Australian, I guess they're a tier 2 soft, but they're reconnaissance troops. They go out, we'd run a medical clinic in the village while the guys were out sort of just patrolling around the outside. And and so you're just landing in all these random little villages and just trying to pick the best place to land so you don't squash their crops or scare off their prize cow. But did you say crocs? Do they have crocodiles? Crops with a P.
Oh, crocs. Crops.
There are crocodiles up and around there. I mean, this is just immediately north of Darwin. When we were in the Solomon Islands a few years earlier, you'd see crocodiles, you'd see whales, you'd see sharks, you'd see turtles. It's pretty amazing some of the wildlife up around there. Heaps of World War II shipwrecks. It's pretty cool.
Okay. Did you ever get, what do they call that? Instant rough. As soon as you go over the water and you're looking down, you see the sharks, and you're like, man, did you hear that? Did you hear something?
Yeah.
Hey, I think I heard something a little rough going on up there.
Is it oil pressure just a little bit? No, you'd find something wooden to tap on, and you'd keep going. But I tell you what, I spent Solomon Islands. Most of the flying over there was out over the water in haze, and then eventually out of the haze would pop the next island, and and then you'd. So yeah, she wasn't really where you wanted to be, losing an engine, but she's a good girl, the Huey. She wouldn't let you down.
Yeah, I love the UE. Like I said, I love the UE, but single engine over the water. Oh, great white sharks. I don't know, mate. Yeah, that might be.
Yeah, see, all these hurt guys used to talk up the dreaded 3-engine approach, and I'm like, man, that's you don't know what losing an engine's like.
Yeah, losing one, no big deal. Yeah, we'd have that gearbox go out. Of course, most opportune time flying over Phuket, Thailand, coming home from Thailand or someplace, and or actually we were coming back from Diego Garcia, and
Yeah.
the gearbox crapped on number one, and we put down in Phuket for a week and a half. Yeah, that was a rough
My
time.
friend is actually an ex Huey pilot, changed over to the Herc, and they they didn't break down in the Maldives, but they were coming back and they were through the Maldives, and they had to overnight, and he jumped into the pool, but jumped in a bit shallow and hurt his neck. And he said it was the perfect thing, because if it was an aircraft issue, then all the maintenance guys would be out there working on the aircraft and they couldn't enjoy it. And if it was something to do with ops, the aircrew would be busy. But this was it. Everyone had the excuse was there wasn't a captain to fly the airplane home. So they sat for 3 days in the Maldives and eventually got home.
I had a good time. Yeah. You ever, we stopped in Christmas Island or Cocos Island, owned by the Aussies. They would import ostriches.
All right.
Yeah, that was always a good time. We
Ostriches.
did they had the ostriches from Africa, and they would import them and quarantine them for like 30 days.
Oh, yeah.
Then they bring them over to Australia and turn them into boots or whatever. We did a couple exercises up in Darwin. We did one big one up there. That was a good time. And, my wife and I have been to New Zealand I've been there a couple times. I took her once when we first got married, and we went to Taupo. Have you ever been up there?
Yeah. Yeah.
God,
That's did you go bungee jumping? Did you go jump off a bridge? And
I did bungee jumping. She was 8 weeks pregnant. She really didn't want to do the bungee jumping, but Chris had let me borrow one of his airplanes, like a 210, and we were flying around the mountains and just having a great time. Come back and land, and as we're walking to the parking lot, we hear this woman screaming, and we look up, and they're parachuting, doing the tandem jumps.
Yeah.
And my wife goes, "Have you ever been skydiving?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've done it 3 times." The AFL accelerated free fall program they have here.
Oh yeah.
And she goes, "Did you like it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I loved it." She goes, "What do you think? Do you think we could check it out?" I'm like, "Sure, why not?" So we walk up to the hangar, open up the door. It's like, "Hey, is this where you guys go skydiving?" And he's like, "Yeah, mate. Yeah, come on in." So we go in there and said, "Well, how much does it cost?" It was like $50 or something. I go, "Oh, that's great. Yeah. You got a credit card?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I put my credit card down, and the guy's looking at me, and I was a little bit lighter then. He's like, "Yeah, you're about a 44 regular. Yeah, we'll give her about maybe 32 regular." And then she goes, "Whoa, I'm pregnant. Is that a problem?" I'm like 8 weeks pregnant. And he goes, "Oi, hey, Linda, come here." And she comes out, and this big pregnant girl, and he's like, "This is the jump master's wife. She just went diving today." "Yeah. Hey, how is it?" "Oh, it feels great when you're up there, and da 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 da." And she goes, "You're not even pregnant. How old? 8 weeks. That's nothing." So we said, "Okay, we'll do it." And I thought, "Yeah, we're gonna go do some classes or whatever." No, they put us in a flight suit, gave us goggles. You're with him, and the airplane's already running out on the tarmac. And I'm like, "Well, wait a minute, time out. Aren't we going to go over safety stuff?" "Oh yeah, we'll talk about it on the ride up." Oh my God. I got to say that I was a little bit nervous. We went up just below 18,000, jumped out and went through a couple clouds, which were, it was wintertime. It was August down there. So it was it hurt a little bit, but great landing. Guys did an awesome job. My wife loved it. And then we went over to my cousin's house in Sydney, and we tried to walk across the bridge, and they had the release that says, "Are you pregnant?" And my wife said, "Yeah, I'm pregnant. I'm 8 weeks." And she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. You can't go over the bridge. You can't walk across the Sydney Harbor Bridge." And she goes, "Really? I went skydiving in New Zealand." She's like, "Oh." Yeah, she goes, "Oh no, Kiwis, man, they're all a bunch of crazy people." Yeah, no.
It was the wild west in New Zealand back then, It's like, I think she'll be right, Trev, or just throw it in the back, give it an exercise up overalls, you'll be fine. Yeah.
Hey, click, here we go. And we got in the back of the airplane.
And did it work out?
Yeah, it worked out great. She loved it. Had a great time. She wouldn't go bungee jumping. I did the bungee jump, and I love those guys because I'd done it before, and they would always say, "Do you want to touch the water, or do you want to get your head wet?" And it just amazed me that based off your weight, they weigh you about 4 times before you actually get up there. And the first time I did it, I got up there and I go, wait, what? And the guy he just shoved me. And sure enough, man, right down to the water, touched, because I told him I just want to touch the water. And I touched the water and then bounced back up, and then they got me in the little Zodiac. But your country is beautiful. Absolutely.
Yes. But see, I love it when you come over to it because, you know, you get so used to it, right? And so over in Afghanistan or something, like, wow, this is pretty special place. It's because it's so different. It's arid. It's the, you know, the mountains and the little purple flowers everywhere and the, you know, but even coming to, like, I love just driving around America, these big flat, you know, massive flat areas. I remember I was in Wichita last year and I was like, man, this is so cool. And they're like, what are you on about, man? Like New Zealand, it's so beautiful. I'm like, it's just mountains and glaciers and, you know, we've seen it all before. Give me something different. But that's it, right? It's what you get used to. And it's always, we know we've got something pretty special down here, but it's always nice to go and visit somewhere different.
You know what is nice about it? There's nothing poisonous that can kill you down there.
You're safe. That's in Australia. Everything's going to try and kill you.
Yeah, no, New Zealand. We went to New Zealand first and we go to Australia, to Sydney. And my cousin's like, oi, hey, Mitchell, step back. That's a two-stepper. I'm like, what are you talking about? That snake in the pool. If he were to bite you, you'd last about 2 steps and you're dead. Oh my God, man, everything's meant to kill you.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a reason. There's a reason they just sent convicts there and all the good people to New Zealand. So, yeah, you stay with us. You're in good hands if you come to New Zealand. Come back. We'll go for a fly together next time, and we'll be in safe hands. I mean, the mountains and the turbulence and the downdraft, that'll kill you over here. There's no mountains in Australia, but it's worth it. What a place to die if you had to. You know, beautiful.
Oh my God. If I get you hooked up with Chris Blythe, his wife was like mayor of Taupo. And Chris owns that air charter service. He took me out in his 185, and we're going to go pick up these hunters. And you ever watch Air America, the movie Vietnam, Robert Downey Jr. and Mel Gibson?
Yep.
There's that scene where they're coming in. He goes, "There's the runway," and he goes, "Where?" He goes, "There." We're flying in this 185, and Chris is coming in, and he goes, "There's the runway." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I just see the side of a mountain." And he came in and landed uphill on this mountain. And then we got up to the top, and there was like a little plateau, and he turns the airplane around. These 2 hunters get up, grab the gear, jump into the airplane, and then we take off back down the mountain. That, to me, I would love to do that flying.
Yeah,
that was incredible.
Well, I've never landed in an airplane anyway, in a true jungle strip like those. A lot of those are sort of out of action now in New Zealand, but you get them around places like Papua New Guinea. We used to, and the Solomon Islands was great. That was my first deployment. So we're in a Huey, right? So you'll land anywhere, and that's great fun. But they still had the Caribou. So there's another, you know, Vietnam vintage aircraft. These 2 massive piston engines. Man, it made a lot of noise, and they'd always engine run them at like 5 a.m. or something ridiculous. But yeah, they would just go into these dirt strips, and there's in the middle of nowhere, and they'd be really swampy, and they're just kicking up water and mud everywhere, and sort of skidding their way down the runway, and then they'll, you know, turn around, you know, load up a platoon or 2 of soldiers, and then head back down. And this thing, you know, there's 2 old, you know, 50-year-old piston engines sort of at full bore trying to, and this, you know, craft slowly gets going, but then it's off, you know, because it could land on a pinhead. That was quite cool to see. But there's some great strips around New Zealand. Even if you go to, what I used to love doing with our training ones is up in New Plymouth. There's cross runways. They built the main runway basically 90 degrees out to the worst prevailing wind, you know, as you do. But so the cross runway, which is sometimes into wind, it was a grass strip, and it ran across the sealed one. But just for, you know, 5-10 meters either side of the seal runway, it was sealed. So you could literally come in, and it's a challenge because there's a big grass overrun. You could come in and try and land sideways across the actual runway. And I always used to love doing that because you get 20 knots on the nose, and you could land the air trainer at about 60, 65 knots. So you'd come in, and you could just literally land sideways, you know, like the old, like the old famous joke about the Irish guys landing across the runway sideways, right? boy, that's the shortest runway I've ever seen, but it sure is wide. But you can literally do it. You can come in and land across the width of the New Plymouth runway, knowing that if you got it wrong, you actually had a few hundred meters of grass to run onto. But that was great fun. Wow. Love a good challenge like that. And I felt while I'm on it, the one place that you can go and land uphill at a certified aerodrome in New Zealand is down on Stewart Island. So you got the North Island, then you got the South Island, little island down the bottom. Great fishing, blue cod off there, magnifique. But yeah, the airstrip there just runs up the side of the hill, and I have landed in there. That's pretty cool.
Golly, what about Auckland? Do you ever make it up there to the Auckland Aero Club?
Not well. I don't know where the Auckland Aero Club is. There's one at North Shore and there's one at Ardmore.
It's just kind of southeast of
Ardmore.
Auckland.
Yeah, that'll be Ardmore. They do a bit of warbird stuff out of there as well. We used to do helicopters. Spent quite a lot of time going up to Auckland, doing training with police and special forces and things like that, working out of their base. So not normally out of Ardmore, but quite a lot of time there. We've got an Air Force base up there, which is where our Hercules are based out of. Our Navy helicopters are up there. So spent heaps of time flying up and around there. And even went to, back in 2007, they had the inaugural New Zealand Helicopter Flying Championship. And I competed in that, and a Huey managed to sneak away with the title. But yeah, a little bit out of North Shore, there was a great helicopter outfit run by a guy called Roy up there, and he set up this New Zealand Helicopter Flying Championship. It was quite cool.
Ardmore, that was the name of it, Ardmore.
Yeah.
If you go into the clubhouse at Ardmore, the Auckland Aero Club, there's a Marine Corps flag attached over the wall, signed by me and a couple Marines.
Hey, that's cool.
And we brought it down there and hung it up there, and they love that, man. We didn't buy a beer all night. Those guys were great, and they took us flying into Harvard, old T6.
Yeah.
So got some great formation shots around downtown Auckland. Hey, look, here I am, man, tucked with my hands, and we were doing nice formation. It was awesome stuff.
That's great. So I'm going to go to Ardmore, one, to see the flag, and I'm going to take a flag with me so that all the drinks are free. I've learned a lot today. This is fantastic.
Oh, those guys, that was 20-some years ago. So if I can find their names, I'll get you hooked up with them.
No, that's good, man.
What about when did you go over to Afghanistan? What did you do over there?
I was there in 2010. So I wasn't flying over there. I went, on paper, I was a liaison officer to our special forces guys, but just working on the ground in support of them, coordinating supports operations, and just a lot of it was building relationships. So we had TF Nighthawk there, which was the 3rd Infantry Division's aviation component. That they were there. Flew with them, flew in the jump a couple of times, in the Chinook and in the Black Hawk. In fact, it was flying with a guy called Chief Warrant Officer Spots, I think, in the Chinook. And we're flying out. We're out near the Pakistani border, out east. Not a probably great place, but safety wise. But we're out there and we're coming into land, and so I'm trying to be quiet. Critical phase of flight, coming into land. I'm just sitting there nicely, and the dust starts blowing through. It's really dusty out there. Dust starts blowing through the cockpit, and I was like, oh yeah, and your mind just quickly ticks away a few things. And at first I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. Like East Timor, those riverbeds were really dry and dusty. You come and land. You get brown out there as well. So you pick your rock, you come in, you shoot your approach to it, and zero speed it on. But you go back, and because we'd have the doors off on the Huey, old school, everything's covered with dust. It's all through your helmet bag. It's all through the pubs. It's all over the instrument console. So I was like, oh yeah, dust. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm sitting there thinking, gee, this is what's the helicopter like? 60 feet long. That's a long way. And the only door is right down at the back of the ramp where the tail gunner is.
Yeah,
it's a long way for that dust to come in and blow all the way to the front, and it's still floating around above me in the cockpit. And this is all sort of processed in a second or two as I look up and realize it's not dust, it's smoke. And smoke's coming out of the yeah. So we're on fire, and smoke's coming out of the overhead panel. But the best part about it was neither of the two pilots had noticed, because the guy on the left, he's looking out to the left to make sure it's safe to land, and the guy on the right's looking out to the right. And so I got to use the best line I've ever used in an airplane, and I just keyed the old intercom up here. I was like, in my coolest, calmest Kiwi voice, I said, excuse me, but I think your helicopter's on fire. At which point the two pilots look into the middle, see the smoke, look up. Anyway, we get on the ground safely. It was an electrical fire, something had, burnt out, and we flew home in a different helicopter, but we got home safe. So you go.
There you go. That's a great story. And what was the guy's name again?
Spot, Chief Warrant Officer Spots.
Chief Warrant Officer Spots. I'll tell you about some of the helicopter guys I hang out with. Look at that, with an Apache, and you're actually a ginger. Look at you.
I'm a little bit Auburn.
You're a ginger, man. You're straight up
on and up. Always got to grow a moustache if you're away. But if I'm full on ginger, I'm not Prince Harry or
no.
But
hey, look at that! Did you get to fly the Apache?
Oh, I flew this. I didn't. I'd love to. I've actually got a photo. I didn't send it to you, but I got a photo of me in the simulator with the old monocle on, flying their simulator, because they, it's the same as the UH-60 mic simulators they've got, which are just, two containers. You drop them off in theater, and there's no motion, but with the seat cushions and the visuals, it's great. So I've got 2.0 in my logbook, albeit Apache simulator, but I'll take it, right? I'll take it.
I would fly that thing in a heartbeat. Somebody, one of my buddies asked him if he knows Brian Coulter.
That name looks familiar, JP. But I can't place him right now.
Hey, check that out. Epic porn stash. So
one of the first things I learned on deployments was you have to grow a moustache, and you should see the one. I spent 3 months growing this one in the Solomon Islands. I'm a late developer. That one's okay. That's sort of maybe a month and a half, 2 months in.
Yeah.
But I spent 3 months growing one in the Solomons, and at the end, it looks like I've been growing it for a week or two, and it took me 3 months to get anything vaguely credible. And I've got a before and after, like shaving it off, and you can vaguely tell that something's changed. But
you can actually grow a stash at least. Mine comes in, it looks like dirt on my lip, and then if I turn sideways, you can see stuff, but it just looks like I have a pig pen, like dirt on my face.
Some people have got the gift. They just, overnight, boom, it's there. It's bush.
Yeah. If you were Italian or Mexican, you'd have that good growth. I could never get that.
Yeah.
Now, when you were over there, where were you guys? Were you out by Bamiyan, where the other Kiwis were?
Oh, so that's where most of the Kiwis were, up in Bamiyan with the provincial reconstruction team. We were, our guys were based in Kabul. I spent my time between Kabul and Bagram, because Bagram was where we were trying to win the air support. And I'll tell you what, here you go. Here's a little story for you. I don't really tell this one, but this shows how something good came from that ridiculous video that you were playing at the start.
Right.
Because, when that went viral on YouTube, and they get all these messages through Facebook of people from around the world going, hey, are you that Kiwi jet pilot guy? And a guy sent me a message. Darren, I'll remember his name in a sec. Anyway, he sent me a message. He, at the time, was flying. He said, I'm on this new platform called the MC-12. It's a King Air 350 ISR platform. He said, we've got this new platform in USAF, MC-12, and they had a couple in Iraq, and they were just sending the first one to Afghanistan. And I said, what do you know? I'm just headed to Afghanistan. And he said, well, I really want a copy of like your song. Can you send me a CD or something? So I chucked one in the post to him. And he sent me his squadron patch. It's hanging up in my room. I still got it. And so I had it with me over in Bagram. And I walk into the DFAC one night for dinner, and the girl on the front desk called Mandy Stopper. There you go. I remember her name. That's not great. And she's like, and she's wearing this MC-12 patch. And I was like, hey, that's a cool patch. She's like, yeah, we know, we're this new unit. And I said, look at, and I undo my jacket. And I'm like, look, I've got one as well. And she's like,
how'd you get
can't
that?
have one. Like, we're the only guys here. There's only they were the first two platforms were there. They ramped up the numbers eventually. But I was like, no, I got sent one from Darren. Anyway. And so I was like, well, look, I'd love to come down and get a capability brief. No one knew what MC-12 was. At the time, everyone wanted Predator. Everyone was after lines of Predator. I don't want Predator to support this op. It was really hard to get in. And so I jacked up through that we get access to the MC-12. They wanted some work. They wanted to prove their capability. So we ended up, our task force ended up working with them quite a bit. And in the early days, no one else was fighting for them. So we could pretty much ring up and get an MC-12 on station. And they were fantastic. They did such a great job. 4 crew in the year, 3 in the ISREC on the ground supporting it. And I tell you what, they did a great job. But because of the stupid jet pilot video and some guy sending me a message on Facebook, we got a whole bunch of ISR support. So, it did some good.
It did good. It did good.
Yeah.
Were you up at Kabul airport or were you down in Kabul at Eggers?
No, we were at Camp Warehouse at the time in Kabul. So just one of the coalition bases around there.
Oh,
but then I'd go up to Bagram was where I was. Darren Morgan is who the guy I'm thinking of. That's who it was. I don't know if he's on there. He now flies airliners around the world. But but they were all based in he was Iraq, but the other guys were all based in MC-12 at the time.
Here he says, Anzac guy, Kiwi Hawk pilot who also flew with the RAF. Current boss figured Anzac guy. He's Australian.
I wonder if that's like Eastie or someone like that. He was in charge of all the strike for a while. F-18 guy, Skyhawk pilot, very good pilot.
Let's see. I got when I was in A-Land with the Kiwis, were in Bamyan. They're in Bamyan. Yeah, that's actually, I got a picture. So I worked with the Afghan National Police, and I had a bunch of UK guys, and
there you go.
Peter here was in charge of the police. He was the police chief in Bamyan's aide, and so I mean, just freaking great guy. It was amazing to go there because, those guys, you would hang out with them. You were riding around in the back of pickup trucks with, take your helmet off. I mean, nobody was bothering you. You're just riding around open air in the back of a pickup truck, not worried about getting shot. And I go, how can you guys do this? And he goes, because they hate the Taliban and all the fighters so bad that if any move into the area, they call up, they get word to us, and then we send the boys in to go get them. And they rat them right out. So we have like no insurrection here. They hate the Taliban so bad after what they did to all those folks, chucking those guys out and killing them after they blew up the statues.
Yeah. So, yeah. And through till about 2011, 2012, it was really pretty safe up in Bamyan. The last couple of years weren't quite so good, but yeah.
Yeah. And how many tours did you end up doing over there? One or
I only did one up there. I just did the one in 2010. We didn't have aircraft deployed, so unless you got in a sort of a niche role like I did, then there wasn't a lot of scope to get up there. We had a couple of guys flew the Chinook on exchange with the UK, and they had some great stories. They did some awesome stuff. One of our guys would have got a DFC, but they got the New Zealand equivalent these days of a DFC. So one of the guys I've flown with a lot over the years on helicopters, and then we were running the training wing together for the last couple of years. He spent 3 tours up there flying the Chinook. Got some great stories. Super jealous of that opportunity to go and put that to the test. We got close to deploying the NH90 when I was in charge of it to a couple of cool places around the world, but it never came off. So not that no one's out there looking for a conflict, but of course you want to naturally do the ultimate in terms of what you've joined for. And East Timor was a great challenge flying wise, but couple that with the security and the ability to make a real difference to the place would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, I understand what you mean. I mean, both times Iraq and Afghanistan, I was in ground tours. I never got to fly. So, when I see everybody with an air medal, I'm like, I just wanted to fly in combat. That's it, man. Tell me about the Missing Wingman program, Trust.
Well, I actually started that in Afghanistan. We had just before I left, 2 guys had died on base. One was in a sort of munitions. It was a old artillery shell, and it exploded when he was going to deal with it up in a training area. And another guy, young guy, had a heart attack on base, like 21, just fell over after PT. And then the third death was a week into my time in Afghanistan, a friend who died in an aircraft crash back in New Zealand. And I just remember sitting there, by myself over there going, there's all this attention around them at the moment, but what's going to happen, when he had 4-month-old, his first son, 4 months old. At the time, and my daughter was 6 months old. He'd been instructing me on the flying instructor's course a year earlier, and both our wives were pregnant at the same time. So, and we'd spent a lot of time flying. In fact, he was the boss when I was in East Timor. I was the flight commander. He was the deck commander.
Was this Muddy?
No. It was a guy called Nick. And so I just remember, what's actually there for, we've had these 3 deaths that have sort of hit the base over the last few months. What's going to be there for like the kids when they're 16, 17, 18, if they want to go to university, they want to get into an apprenticeship, they want to go and do something different. Maybe we should be doing something. Naturally, I just wanted to look after them. So set up this charity called the Missing Wingman Trust. And at the time, it was the only charity for military like that in the country to look after what we call our Kiwi families, or families where someone is killed, injured, wounded, or ill. Kiwi. And since then, sadly, there have been obviously a lot more people. We had that horrible helicopter crash on Anzac Day 2010, just after I got home from Afghanistan, actually, and that killed 3 and seriously injured another. But often the ones that need the help are the ones where maybe, the partner was at home with the kids and wasn't working and died of cancer. And so there's no defense life insurance, there's no financial support for them because they weren't working, so they don't get their income continued at all. And then the partner has to reduce their hours with the Air Force to support the family, or, and so it's been looking after people with some, whether it's kids that have got, had health issues, whether it's some just tragic accidents, someone killed riding their motorbike, someone that, just freak health things where someone at 50 falls over, has a heart attack and dies, or whatever it might be. It's been a real privilege actually to be in the position where we've been able to go out and provide, just it's a little bit of help for those families. It's never going to fill the hole that gets left behind when something like that happens. But knowing that we're there to at least just do something and remind them that there's a whole community around these people that still value them, love them, support them, and want to help, it's really special.
How big is it now? The trust?
The trust, in terms of what? Finance or families?
Yeah, no. How many families have you all assisted with so far?
Oh, I should know that number, and I don't off the top of my head, and I don't want to make it up and get it wrong. I know
No.
It was a small Air Force, so smaller numbers. So, but we probably have, like, there's probably anywhere from, it comes in surges. You might get anywhere from 1 to, at the most, 5 people a month that would sort of end up supporting. Like last week, there were a couple that came in. What have we done? I mean, we would have helped somewhere between 10 and 20 families this year, I would have thought. And we've been running for 14 years. So, you do the maths, it's 100 families or something like that. It's not huge, but in the context of an Air Force that's actually only got a couple of thousand people in, it's actually a pretty big proportion.
Yeah, it's good. How about sponsors? You get like RM Williams help you out, or?
Do you know what? And shamelessly, we would love to have sponsors. It is all done the old-fashioned way, the hard way. Literally, fundraising, one sausage sizzle at a time. The best one I did actually. Here. Just bear with me because it's right here.
Yeah, no worries.
I haven't left. So this was this idea. I had worked with a local company here where I live called Imagination Gin, and we made Missing Wingman Gin.
No way.
And so there you go. It's got a Herc on there for you.
Yeah.
And it's 19 at the time, the P3, which was still flying, and it's a Uzi gin. It tastes amazing. But we sold, and what we did. So you can see that I've got number 17. Yeah. Because my wings course was number 017, 2001 July is when it started. So we were 017 wings. So we numbered the 400 bottles, and then we said, if it was a squadron number, you're going to have to bid on it. Like number 3 squadron, the helicopter one, went over $1,000.
Wow. If
you wanted to pick your number because it was another number like your wings course or your recruit course that was special to you, you just had to pay what was $120 instead of $100 for a bottle of gin. And a few of them, like number 1, we made the Chief of the Air Force buy, and just told him he owed us a lot of money. And it's good. He played ball. But people were, but it was a great fundraiser. It made tens of thousands, and that went directly. Like, we don't have any staff. There's no staff that work for the charity. There are no, literally every dollar that goes in goes out to a family. Everyone volunteers that helps. And so that's a great fundraiser. But that's sort of that, or the odd, dinner that they ran up in Auckland last year. Other than that, it's just the old-fashioned way. So, hey, Lockheed Martin, if you're watching, Bell Helicopters, come on down. If someone wants to donate a scholarship that we could pass on to a family in need each year, we'd happily have that conversation.
You know what? I actually have some friends that work for Bell and Lockheed. Let me send a message to some friends and see what we can do. This is actually impressive. You with Prince William and Kate.
Well, I'll tell you what's really impressive, and you can tell from his smile, that's 2 helicopter pilots in one room, and that's as good as it gets. You can see the mutual respect for the ability to hover. And there you go. And baby George, there you go, 2 future kings in the room. You can't actually see, but just behind me is at the time he was the Governor General of New Zealand, our former Chief of Defence, or like your Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Sir Jerry Matsaparai. So it's quite cool. He was a great Governor General. He's just a real people person. So it was great having him there as well. But yeah, I got to work for Prince William for a little bit, and there's his late grandmother, Her Majesty.
You got to meet the Mother Queen. And is that your wife, Emma? Emma's sitting
That's
there with
my
you?
wife. That's literally at Buckingham Palace. And it's your classic Kiwi story, right? Because Kiwis, we just go out. I'm in London on my staff course, actually, over in England.
Yeah.
And the boss in the embassy rings up and says, hey, someone has to go to Italy to represent New Zealand for Anzac Day, because it was the 100th anniversary of Anzac Day, which is our Memorial Day equivalent. You have it in May, we have it in April. And he said, so I'm going to Italy because it's my job. And I was like, oh, that's fine. And he said, but I need someone to represent the Air Force in London. Are you keen? And I was like, absolutely. I'll do anything you want. So I turn up at the dawn service and Princess Anne's there. And then I turn up at the cenotaph. And it's a hard case because, you've got all the ambassadors from different countries and all their defense attaches with them. So I just went and stood at the back, right? Because I'm not really anybody. I'll just go and hide down the back. And in one particular country that can remain nameless in this forum, but, they were like, no, we're having 2 people up the front. And no, there's only space for 1. And the sergeant major of the guard regiments in London, like the most atypical sergeant major that London has, that England has to offer, walks up and in the most respectful and very firm and clear way makes it very clear to this gentleman that there will only be 1 person in the front and the other one will have to stand behind, and that's the way it's going to be. And it was just glorious to watch. Anyway, that's a tangent. So I'm standing down the back and I just start chatting to the old guys next to me, because that's what we do at Anzac Day, right? Chat to some old dudes. Hear some of their stories. And he said, I used to be a lieutenant colonel in the Horse Guards and did this, and now he worked as an executive for some such and such. And anyway, it turned out that he spent 50 days a year. He was a senior gentleman usher, or helped out at the palace, basically. I was like, that's pretty cool. But his great uncle was General Birdwood. He commanded the Anzacs at Gallipoli, like New Zealand's most famous battle.
Right.
I was like, wow, that's really interesting. I'm doing some study on that at the moment. He said, I don't know much about it, but I know a person that does. Let's swap details and we'll, be in touch. And so that was it. And then I went and did, and then the last event that day, went to Westminster Abbey, and literally, because I'm the New Zealand Air Force representative and it's Anzac Day, New Zealand Day, I'm seated up the front in Westminster Abbey, directly opposite the Queen and Prince Philip. And they have the big fanfare as she walks in. Like, it's pretty amazing. It was a pretty incredible experience, and just to be part of it. And I remember saying to this old guy as I left, I was like, wow, that's the closest I'll ever get to the Queen. That's amazing. This little kid from New Zealand. And he's like, yeah, you never know. That's pretty cool. And anyway,
you never know. You never know.
And we keep in touch. And they'd also advertised around that time they have these 3 garden parties a year at Buckingham Palace, and New Zealand gets to allocate 30, 40 tickets, because they have a few thousand at each one. And I put my name in the drawer. I kept looking and refreshing the webpage because it opens on a Friday. It's shut on a Monday. Anyway, I kind of missed it. I don't know what the statute of limitations is, but I missed it I missed the Friday, and we were away for the weekend. I got back and I logged in to check if it had opened yet at Monday at 9:05, and it shut at 9. So I rang up the High Commission. I was like, yeah, it's Tim Costley here, from the Air Force. Just checking my name went in the drawer. Okay, I'm not sure if the computer quite worked. And they're like, oh, no, it hasn't gone through. I said, am I too late? I didn't put it in. And they said, no, it's fine. We'll put you in now. So they put me in the drawer. And then, a little bit later, a month later, they rang up and like, hey, your name got drawn out. You're going to the garden party with your wife. I was like, wow, that's amazing. And she said, and actually, your name did actually get drawn out. Like sometimes we just stack it because you're over here for a year with the Air Force. We try and look after you, but you actually got drawn out. I was like, oh, that's great. And I said to this guy, Gordon Birdwood, I said, hey, I'm going to this garden party. And he said, oh, I'm working that day. You should say g'day. I'll just be helping on the balcony or something. Say g'day on the way past. Sure. So anyway, I've got my uniform on and we head off to the palace, my wife and I, and our friends from Australia had also got invites to the one the week earlier. Yeah. And they said, and this is quite cool, this would happen in America, it happens in England, it doesn't happen in New Zealand. But the Queen puts out, they said the Queen puts out an order of the day that says anyone in uniform doesn't line up. You go straight to the front of the queue and into the palace because it's massive lines to get in. So we went to the front, not sure. I was like, is it really true that if you're in uniform? Oh, yes, please, sir, come through. So we took this half an hour of queuing. So we walked through. Thank you, Aussies. Americans, man, you guys know how to respect service and service people. We're not good at that in New Zealand. Anyway, so we get into the palace because we want to go into the front entrance and we walk through. It's amazing. It's this historical place. Yeah. And then on the way through, I'm like, hey, there's Gordon. And I said to him, say g'day. And I said, oh, Gordon. And he's like, I'm sorry, I'm terribly busy right now. Would you mind waiting over there? And I was like, I don't know, I've got nowhere else to be. So we go and wait over to the side. And this guy called Chris walks up to us and says, are you squadron leader and Mrs. Costley? And yep. And he said, and you're meeting the Queen today? And I said, yep, definitely.
Yeah, sure.
And he said, oh, that's good. I just have to get some details. So I've got the name right. Yes. And what was the reason you were meeting the Queen? And I said, oh, I'm in
the Missing Wingman Trust.
I'm in the Air Force. I didn't think of that. I said, I'm in the Air Force. I'm over here doing my staff course. And he was like, oh. And I said, oh, and I don't know if this is a thing, but I was Prince William's equerry in New Zealand. Oh, no, that's good. That'll be why. So he writes it down. Anyway, eventually Gordon comes up. He's like, now, did Chris come and see you? Are you all sorted for that? And I said, yeah, like, are we actually meeting the Queen? Yeah. And it turns out he was the senior gentleman usher at the palace, and his job was to work out who does the Queen meet.
Oh, no way.
And so he said, look, you need to be over at this place at 3:00. We'll tell you how it works. So we go off, get a cup of tea and a sandwich, and walk around the grounds, and we meet them. And I said to Emma, look, we did this with Prince William. I know how it works. There'll be a group of like 10 or 20 of us. We're just going to have to put ourselves forward and say something, or we're not going to get to, because she's going to be with us for 2 minutes. Not everyone's going to get to talk. So we're just going to have to jump in there. And she's like, oh, yeah, I don't know, maybe. And so we go over there. Sure enough, there's 10 or 20 of us. And they go through the list of who everyone is, and I'm just standing there chatting to people like we do. This person's run this charity for 20 years, and this person raised all this money for cancer research, and I'm like, oh, they deserve this so much more than me. But anyway, they take us off and they part the Red Sea. The whole lawn of Buckingham Palace is covered with these people. They make this big gap that the Queen will walk down, and they walk us to where it's going to be, and they say, right, you two stand here, and then they walk the rest of us down further, and they drop up, and suddenly I realized it's not all of us in a group, and literally, like you saw in that photo, it's me and Emma standing by ourselves, and then the Queen zigzags her way down this line, and then for 3 minutes, we're standing there talking to the Queen with the people in the background are sort of, 10 meters back from you. And there's no one else around, and we're just standing there. And how surreal is that? This little kid from New Zealand is having a conversation with the Queen at Buckingham Palace, just because I happened to yarn to someone at Anzac Day, and that was at the right place at the right time. So there you go. That's my story. That's why you should always have a chat to random people.
That's it. And who took that photograph? Was that at the palace? photographer
I
that got you
think
on?
someone was filming a documentary about the Queen or something that year, and it's literally, I think, a still frame from that, because they're like, there's no cameras, and we knew sort of someone, there was someone in the background that we'd met at the college, but we
Yeah.
couldn't get them a camera anyway. But so we managed to
Wow.
get that still shot, so we can at least
Now,
prove it's real.
that is so damn cool, man. What a
Yeah,
great event.
yeah.
So now you retire after 20 years. You've met the Queen. The Queen probably said, "You're such a fine young man. You ought to run for politics."
No, do you know
So
what she said? Because I met her at Query at a New Zealand function a bit later, and she said, "Oh," and this guy comes up to me, and he says, "Were you at the garden party like a month ago?" And I was like, "Yeah." He
yeah,
said, and he was like starting off. That was like his first day on the job, and he told us what he said. And as the Queen, she talked to us, and then she moves on to the next one, and she turns around
right.
and says to him, "Oh my goodness, that man's a giant." So there you go. That's what she said about me.
How tall are you?
About twice her height. I don't know, a meter 94. What's that? 6'4"? Something like
6'4"?
that.
Yeah. Yeah,
6'4",
you're a
6'5". I
giant.
don't know. Too
You're a
tall.
giant ginger. So,
Right.
how did you end up deciding to run for politics?
Crazy. It had been like a 10-year journey to get to this point. But eventually, people like you and me, we're all about service. We spend our careers. Yeah, we joined for an
Yeah.
adventure. We wanted to fly airplanes, but we also wanted to serve our country. And I found, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It was a real privilege to be able to, some of the places we went and some of the people we got to help and pull out of trouble was awesome. But you also sit back and watch. And for me, I just couldn't sort of sit back and not do anything about the direction our country was heading in. And so I cared about, what it is that my kids are growing up in, the kind of country they'll live in, what life's going to be like, the direction we're going. And so, you kind of wait for someone better to step up. And the more you just poke your nose in a little bit to see how it's going, you realize actually, the caliber of people that we work with in the Defence Force is incredibly high, actually, across all ranks and all trades,
Mhm.
incredibly high compared to what you meet in a lot of other parts of society. And if good people like us don't step up, all you're going to have is what's left. So I thought, well, I'll put myself forward. You go through a selection to see if you'll be the local candidate for this party in this seat. And look, there's probably better people out there, but then at least I gave it an nudge and I know where I stand. But sure enough, I won, and then I went to the election, and now here I am as the local MP.
So, Otaki, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Otaki is how you
Otaki.
pronounce it. Yeah.
Otaki. God, that's awesome, man. Well, congratulations. I admire people that write books because they have the
Yeah.
discipline to sit down and put words to paper. I would love to be that guy. I've got a lot of old stories. And I also admire people that step up and do what you're doing. Ronnie Jackson was a Navy doctor, and he was a lieutenant commander. I was a major in Iraq in 2005, and we were running buddies. I mean, like we would go run around the base and
Yeah.
get shot at by the local sniper and stuff like that. And I thought, who better to run with but the base surgeon? So if I get,
That's it.
hit, this guy's going to save my life, hopefully right in the ass cheek, and then, it'll be an easy recovery. But
Yeah.
he's a congressman now for Texas, where I'm from. And it's just I'm so proud of him because he's willing to dive into the swamp, and I know his integrity. I know what kind of good guy he is. And we need more, I believe we need more vets in politics, because if you have guys that have experienced it, they're not going to be as apt to send more kids to war. Does that make sense? I think.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
I mean, having seen what I've seen, I wouldn't advocate going to war with anybody. I mean, I just interviewed a buddy of mine. He's actually a neighbor, special forces guy that lives down the street. And he took off and volunteered and got a contract over in the Ukraine.
Yeah.
I interviewed him, absolutely crazy. We'll just call him Cinco. Cinco says it's like World War I, trench warfare, only there is nowhere to hide because there are eyes everywhere. They have the little copters, little quads, and
Yeah.
they're using thermals, and He goes, "You've just got nowhere to hide." Relentless shelling, and I mean that's horrible. They're the carnage that's going on right now. I don't think people realize. And now with Israel, I'm dismayed. I mean, if we're talking politics, so you don't mind me, my view, I'm dismayed with what I see in my own country and in the UK with the pro-Palestinian marches. And, what they did to the Israelis was uncalled for and just it was mass genocide. That's not warfare. That was just straight up murder, and nobody seems to be calling them out on that. So I don't know.
Yeah, look, my inbox is full of emails, saying, "Hey, you need to call for a ceasefire there," and I'm like, "Well, we all want that, right? We all want this conflict to end. We all want humanitarian solutions and aid to get in." But if the two parties that are fighting aren't willing to entertain it, it's really hard, to force that. So I think what you say is absolutely true. If you've been in that situation, you know exactly. I mean, it's easy to stand here and say we want to avoid conflict, but I think when someone like you that's been in these places, you've served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and you know exactly what it is that you want to avoid. And I think that can maybe sharpen your motivation and just a little bit more, and you speak some authenticity.
Well, to like the Abraham Accords or something to try to get peace. The problem is, like I explained to my daughter who's in college, Dad, why are these people this way, or why is it this? And I'm like, honey, it's a generational thing. They teach these kids over there in madrasas. When we were over in Afghanistan, they were over in Pakistan, putting them the kids in madrasas and teaching them at a young age. And it's the same deal. It's not. I always say it's generational, because if you kill, Daddy Mitch and Daddy Tim, Uncle Tim, then the kids are going to grow up to try to avenge Uncle Tim and Daddy Mitch, and then their kids. I mean, it's just a generational thing. I don't ever see a solution to that. It's just really hard. But boy, I tell you what, between what's going on in Ukraine and Israel, the world's kind of on fire, and people don't realize it.
In tough situations, but I look, I still have hope. I still believe we can make a difference. That's what motivates me to get up. And I can't bring about world peace next week. I'm not foolish enough to think that, but I absolutely believe we can make a difference. And it might be one person at a time. It might be one person that needs help in my community. It might be just delivering an extra little bit of aid to one country in need overseas. But absolutely, we can make a difference.
Well, I tell you what, your country, if I had to immigrate anywhere, I'm going to immigrate to New Zealand, because I've never had more fun, nicer people than when I traveled around New Zealand. We rented a car and drove all over the place. I absolutely love everything that you have there. And if I could go back to Auckland, get a nice flat white, nice dinner down there, and look at the boat. What's the boat that won the sailing deal? American Cup. Yeah, America's Cup was there. I had to go see my cup in Auckland. But
I tell you what, but just bring down with you a diner, a proper American diner, and some buffalo wings. I tell you what, you just don't get buffalo wings like you do stateside. So
you'll have to make them. It's kind of like our friends from the UK. He was SBS, Royal Marine. He was an SBS guy. He bought a bunch of charcoal grills and brought them back to the UK with him, and bags of charcoal. I mean, like whole bags of charcoal to cook on his grill, because he goes, we just don't do that over in the UK.
Yeah, they don't. They have these crap little tinfoil ones. But I've got my Sweet Baby Ray's buffalo sauce, and that's as close as it gets. But I tell you what, give me an American sports bar, some buffalo wings, and some baseball. I'm happy, man.
Well, let me know what you need, and I'll mail you a box of goodies. And and I promise you, I'm going to jump on a 787. I'm going to fly down there and come see you. Definitely going to stop by. And if you are ever in Texas, my friend, you always have a place to stay. You got a Marine. I got cold beer in the fridge, and we could definitely have some good stories.
Love it.
Hey, Tim, I tell you what, I can't thank you enough for joining us. If you hang on for 1 second, I'm going to actually play the song Actually, no. You know what? Give me just a couple minutes, and I'm going to play your song so everybody can see it. Go to iTunes. It's Airtime. Is that was the name of your band? Airtime?
Oh, yeah, it was. I don't know if it's real. I don't even think it's on. Does iTunes exist? I don't think my song exists.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
think your
sure.
song's on
Is it?
on iTunes because that's where I downloaded it from.
There you go.
Yeah. You know what? If you hold on 1 minute, go take a break and come back, and I'll end the show. But I definitely want to talk to you for a minute if you got a minute. You got a couple minutes left?
Sounds good, man. It's been great talking to you, and it's always good to catch up with a fellow aviator and someone that served their country. And I just thank you for your service, and great to chat today. Thanks.
You're worth it, man. Every day, right? All right. Hold on 1 second, folks. I'm gonna play this from the beginning because it is the best damn song ever. And go to iTunes. You can go to Amazon. You can buy his album. But give me 5 minutes, Tim, and then come back. All right. Good pee break. All right. Hold on 1 second.
I'm with you.
Let me do this.
You
can ask me lots of questions. Hello, young lady. You look quite nice today. And I look real good. You may come a little bit closer to me. You may smell my musk if you wish. But first of all, how rude of me. Let me introduce to you myself to you. My name is Pilot, I'm a pilot, that's what I do. And you can ask me lots of questions about that if you want to, oh yeah. Let you buy me a drink for me. Cause I'm a real pilot, like on Top Gun, like on TV. And the thing that you should know about me is that the first night is always for free. Oh yeah! Cause I'm a pilot, a jet pilot, yeah. And when I'm in the bar, I wave my hands in the air. And I'll tell you all about me, even if you don't care about me. Cause I'm a pilot in the military. My favorite conversation topic has to be me. You haven't really lived until you pulled non-G like me. Now I was flying in formation the other day and I was number one. When two bogeys came down in on me out of the sun. And I said, I'm too close for missiles, now I'm switching to guns, oh yeah! Then the other crazy bandit, he rode in on me. So I just rode upside down and pushed some negative G. I slammed on the brakes, he flew right by me. Fox 3, oh yeah! Cause I'm a pilot, a jet pilot, yeah. And when I'm in the bar, I wave my hands in the air. And I'll tell you all about me, even if you don't care about me. Cause I'm a pilot in the military. My favorite conversation topic has to be me. You haven't really lived until you pulled a guy like me. Now you might think that practicing all the time would be a real bore. Because we only ever train and we never do the job that we joined for. The only fight I've been in was some kind of crazy hand war, oh yeah! But come over to my house at, I don't know, like 8:30. And we'll open up a bottle of wine and we'll stay up until real late. Cause I'm gonna make you watch in slow-mo every one of my HUD tapes, oh yeah! Cause I'm a pilot, a jet pilot, yeah. And when I'm in the bar, I wave my hands in the air. And I'll tell you all about me, even if you don't care about me. Cause 'cause I'm a pilot in the military. My favorite conversation topic has to be me. You haven't really lived until you pulled a guy like me. By which I mean pulling a guy who is like me, not me pulling another guy, because that is gay and I'm a pilot, I don't do that kind of thing much. So come over to my place and we'll talk the night away. And when I say talk, baby, I mean you'll listen, because I've got a lot to say. And it's all about me, but that's okay, oh yeah. I own shares in mirror companies and other things like brew cream. And just 2 minutes with me, baby, that's enough to make you scream. 'Cause I'll take you to heaven and back at Mach 3, if you know what I mean. And I don't mean the raise at Mach 3, but it'll be real close. 'Cause I'm a pilot, a jet pilot, yeah. And when I'm in the bar, I wave my hands in the air. And I'll tell you all about me, even if you don't care about me. About me, yeah, 'cause I'm a pilot in the military. My favorite conversation topic has to be me. You haven't really lived until you pull a guy like me. Yeah, 'cause I'm a pilot, a jet pilot, yeah. And when I'm in the bar, I wave my hands in the air. And I'll tell you all about me, even if you don't care about me. How could you not care about me, baby? 'Cause I'm a pilot in the military. My favorite conversation topic has to be me. You haven't really lived until you've flown a Mach 3. And I've done that twice.
Oh, that makes me laugh every time, man. What's up with the little sheep? The little sheep thing was cracking me up.
The Aussies left it behind as a bit of a joke, so I just thought I'd just roll with it.
Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed Tim Costley today, MP Tim Costley. And if you have a little chance, show some love. The Missing Wingman Trust, we can find that on the internet, right, Tim?
Yeah, for sure.
So if you guys give Missing Wingman Trust a little love, that would be awesome. We're helping out Heater Heatley. Do you know who that is by chance? Watch Top Gun?
Oh, yeah.
So Heater's got the porn stash.
Yeah.
And he was an actual Top Gun instructor. He's fighting cancer right now. And so we've raised about 70, last count I saw, about $70,000.
Wow.
Trying to help him out.
Brother.
Yeah, he wrote that book, The Cutting Edge. This one right here. So if you find that is the book for aviators, just incredible. But I'll tell you what, Tim, hold on one second. I'm going to play the exit, and then I want to talk to you because I got something for you. All right.
Thank you, man. Nice to chat.
All right. Yeah. Hold on one second. Don't leave. I'll drop you off. Hold on one second. Hey, folks, thanks so much for joining us, Tall Tales with Taco. That was Tim Costley down in New Zealand. I got to tell you, this has been a great show, great episode. I love New Zealand. It's my favorite country in the world. As an airline pilot, I've been to 55 different countries, airline Marines, probably 55 different countries around the world. People always ask me, what is your favorite place to go? And I have to break that down. Romantic, romantic place would be like Cocos Island or Mackinac Island or New Zealand. And Auckland, New Zealand, Taupo, New Zealand, down in the mountains, it is absolutely gorgeous. And then down south where he is, the beaches, it's beautiful. And the people are just super friendly. There's nothing there that'll kill you. So highly recommend on your next vacation, go to New Zealand and enjoy it. So until I see you guys next week, adios, hasta luego, auf Wiedersehen, tschüss, sheshine, au revoir, domarigato gozaimasu, and we'll just say good day, mate. Yeah.